Father Claudio Doglio presents The Passion of Jesus according to Matthew. This is video number 8. The disciples denies the teacher. Peter had the courage to follow Jesus, though from far away, to the palace of the high priest. He entered the courtyard and sat down among the servants to see the end of what was going on. While in the palace of the high priest, the interrogation of Jesus was taking place. Outside, Peter was sitting in the courtyard and was surprised by a young servant girl who asked him not a question, but an observation. She seems to recognize him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee. There is a strong emphasis in Matthew's account of the regional connotation. Jesus is labeled first as the Galilean and then as the Nazarene. In each case, he is linked to a very specific region of Holy Land. And the motivation is probably due to the accent, the pronunciation, to the phonetic characteristic that recognizes the belonging of a person to a region and not to another. Peter mingled with the servants in the courtyard, but is recognized as a Galilean. And this young woman who has no social role points him out as someone who was with Jesus. Peter's courage suddenly disappears. In words, he had said that he was willing to follow Jesus to death. Now, without much thought, instinctively, Peter denies knowing Jesus. In front of everybody, he says, I don't know what you are talking about. The first denial is generic. He pretends that he does not understand what she has said, but denies it. The verb used by the evangelist should be translated as swear. It's a recurring verb in the words of Jesus and in several apostolic discourses. There was a danger for the first Christian community, that of denying faith in the Lord Jesus out of fear to avoid persecution, in order not to face the difficulties that the new faith entailed. Jesus himself, in one of his sayings, has threatened not to recognize before his Father the one who would deny him. Instead, Jesus asks to disown oneself, to deny oneself, to follow him. Peter, with words, was willing. The spirit seemed willing, but his flesh is weak, and now he does not deny himself. He does not say no to his instinct of self-preservation, to his fear, but he denies the teacher. He refuses to understand this relationship. Peter, frightened, tries to get out of this close environment where he feels uncovered. He tries to advance towards the gateway to go outside. But he is seen by another maid who does not say to him but to the others present, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. The insistence of being with Jesus continues. And Peter again denies, says no, adding an oath, adding another lie. I do not know the man. The first time he was content to say he didn't understand what was being said. Now he makes the situation worse in two ways. He adds an oath that is a perjury and claims not to know the man, instead the man that he knew very well. Jesus had recommended to his disciples in the Sermon on the Mount not to swear at all, but simply to say yes and no, consistently and transparently. Even in this case, the disciples, Peter did not learn from the teacher. He has not listened to him. He is not putting the teaching into practice. Attracted by the observation of the servant, those present make a circle around Peter. They look at him well. They identify him and they tell Peter, you are wrong. Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. You have a clear Galilean accent, so you must be one of them. That is one of the prophet's disciples who comes from Galilee, of the one who presents himself as the Messiah, the Son of Man. For the third time, Peter says no. And then he began to call down curses and he swore to them, I don't know the man. He repeats the same lie, adding another false oath and a series of imprecations. Peter is losing patience. He has gone too far. And one sin leads to another. He no longer reasons. He is out of his mind. He is denying his teacher. He is denying all his experience. And immediately a rooster crowed. The day is approaching. The rooster signals with his crowing the dawn of light. And at that moment, Peter remembered the words of Jesus. The crowing of the rooster renews the disciples' memory. That word that had been buried and forgotten came back to Peter's heart. Shortly before, on that tragic evening, the teacher had said to him, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. That was exactly what Peter did. Suddenly, that cock crowing makes him feel like a sinner, a traitor. Peter is weak and has fallen. His fragile flesh has been revealed in all its human weakness. Once outside, he wept bitterly. He had entered to follow the teacher. Now he goes out, flees, and weeps bitterly for his sin. He bitterly acknowledges his own weakness. It is a painful and important picture that the evangelists preserve so that we remember how the disciples that Jesus counted on to build his church, the disciples who became the rock of the foundations, is in reality very fragile. The only foundation is Christ alone. He alone is the solid rock on which the church is based. And every disciple, beginning with Peter, experiences his own weakness. It is necessary for him to weep bitterly over his own sins. The meditation of this episode of the Passion of Jesus leads us to remember more often the words of the teacher, so that we too may learn to weep bitterly for our betrayals, all those times when we said no to the Lord. Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you are talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus the Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath, "I don't know that man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses, and he said to them, "I don't know that man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word of Jesus had spoken. "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and went bitterly. Parliamo, Signore.